All right, this is Fred Burrow, Swift Plumbers, and we're here. The customer had a previous leak. Let me go down there and do this video, okay? Way over there at the water heater, and we're seeing if this is residual water or another leak. A contractor is in here, and he was quite concerned because of the amount of water down here, and we do have quite a bit of water damage. This whole block wall area, this block wall, and we've got damage, and we've noticed water all the way around and over to this area, which is far away because remember, water always travels the path of least resistance, okay? So we've got that water damage going through here, but it flooded, the water heater flooded a big portion of this house. And when it flooded, there was water over in this area, correct? All over here. So the chances because the dryers came in here from the original leak and did not take any of this off and did not dry any of this out, which I assume they did moisture readings like I did, but I'm getting around the ground 100% moisture, and I'm actually physically able to touch some water in the channel when I pulled this out. So I am finding that. Now, there are a few things that I find high hazard and a problem here on this job. Number one, we found moisture from the dishwasher. We'd like to check everything, but this, I did not notice the, right here, some water, I guess. Is this just water you didn't clean up? Yeah, okay. So right down here, we don't have a high moisture level down here. So we just had a little bit of moisture on the front panel here. She's going to keep an eye on that. Now go over here, hand me that moisture. I thought you said you cleaned all that. You couldn't see that, okay. So you did get all this. And I want to show the cabinets are not showing extreme moisture. However, this is completely wrong right here. You've got a trap going up and over. You can't do that. This is connected the wrong way. Barely, if you touch it the wrong way, turn that water on, it's going to leak. That nut isn't correct. This all needs to be stripped out and redone. There's also a copper waste arm into the wall. That's no good either. That's a high hazard, and that could have a leak in it, or that vent stack could have a leak in it. We're not seeing a constant water leak any more than what we've seen water damage from. We'd have to open up that block wall. If we can't see anything with our bigger sewer camera, we can do from up above. We've already done a video inspection inside here with our micro camera. However, just like many times in kitchen lines, unless it's clear and obvious, you're not going to see it. It does not look like that copper waste arm is leaking in the wall, because the camera did show water sitting somewhat at the bottom of the pipe, except for the last maybe 8 inches or 6 inches of this pipe. And there was a lot of buildup in it, grease and whatnot, in that copper waste arm. And it stopped right when we got to the vent stack. The vent stack's going over here to this side, but as you can see, we have no leaks right now in here. I've taken these pipes apart and then had to put them back together so I could enter the pipe with the video sewer camera. So that's what we've seen so far. Now I'm going to go through and highlight some moisture readings real quick. Okay, you can shut that off, Andrew, and put everything away. I want to go through and highlight some moisture readings that concerned the contractor as well as the customer. So you've seen these ones in the house that I've showing you. Let me do a couple right here in this area as well. Like water's running down the channel. Let me show underneath here, behind here, and in this area, you're gonna see a different story here. Shine that light down here. See that 100%? Shine that light down there. See that wood, how wet that is? So, and we're on a block wall. So everything's showing. Now I did use that micro camera to try to see water in that block wall and did not see it. But from what I can tell here, if we go over this way, excluding where the footer is on the last 6 inches, so just show you relatively, this is going to have some moisture automatically in it. But what I'm more concerned with is not these numbers. It's that number. As if water's traveling in it. Now CPVC is not the greatest and can crack, especially on the hot side. It is not a high hazard. However, we must because it's so small. If it is a supply leak, it's so small it's not being registered with the leak detection equipment. But you can see how I go to the left of this window to get closer to the relative moisture, even though it does appear. But certain areas consistently So depending on the building materials, remember cement will retain some moisture or whatnot, but they are different readings over this way as compared to over that way. To know whether or not it's residual water, you would have to first dry this up properly. But there's enough issues over that way. And you're getting that reading, about a foot up even on this side, so I wouldn't go so much by moisture readings rather than my assessment of what I've seen high risk things are, such as the waste arm inside the wall, and the potential of a slight misting crack in CPVC could be as well, and a cast iron stack that's a high hazard as well. And I'm going to go up there and just highlight that roof area right there. Is that VTR or vent through the roof, and you can see there's a cabinet right there, so we'd have to pull that stove and angle, possibly cut out a little bit of that back end of that cabinet to get into that block wall and really inspect everything. But I've already opened a small hole right there above them. I did not see water down there by them water lines, so I would first start with that. Unless you want to completely dry it up, next step, and see if water is going to reappear before you reconstruct everything. But this points out what our hazards are in this job, and it's not a slab leak or anything like that, or anything that's consistently moving. One last thing I'll show you is over here at the water meter. Make sure they don't run any water in there right now, okay? There's their main water shut off. You made sure they're not using any water? The little spinner is the leak indicator on that water meter. Now, the reason that this isn't completely important is if you had a drip inside that block wall, even though that leak indicator doesn't show a leak, right there's a little bit of movement. You wouldn't necessarily notice by the water meter this leak because we already know it's not consistently spraying. This meter's rocking back and forth, so it'd be very hard for you to determine that you had a leak at this water meter. Really, the only way to assess this is the next step is exposing the hazard or things that should be replaced in areas that are already damaged over there in the kitchen portion of this house.